the coddling in the end is a shield for people in power to never have to be answerable. All human beings want to be coddled, right? It's just the truth. You have to train yourself not to want to be coddled. When you don't, you end up with what we have on college campuses, for example, with regard to free speech, where we all want to avoid risk, right? We want speech codes that protect our egos from the possibility of words hurting us. In fact, we go so far as to redefine words as violence so that they can never hurt us. When it comes to the meritocracy must be rejected too, because what if we fail and then we're blamed for our own failures? Now, listen, in the meritocracy, there's nothing more meritorious about somebody who's smart than somebody who's stupid, right? Those are inborn qualities very often. Okay, but the meritocracy does mean that there are externalities that benefit wide swaths of people. If smarter people tend to do well, that benefits everybody because they contribute more in terms of social capital and social value because of the products and things that they are designing, right? But if you can get rid of the meritocracy, it makes you feel a hell of a lot better. Phoebe Cohen, the geosciences professor at Williams College, recently said, quote, "This idea of intellectual debate and rigor as the pinnacle of intellectualism comes from a world in which white men dominated." Right? If that's your belief, that does ensure that you're never going to feel too bad about yourself when you fail. It also destroys all of the fundamental bases for having a civilization. On a broader level, this is the message of critical race theory. According to Richard Delgado and Jean Stefanczyk, or some of the founders of critical race theory essentially holds four basic tenets. Tenet number one is that racism is ordinary, not aberrational. It is the way that society, these are direct quotes, "This is the usual way society does business, the common everyday experience of most people of color in this country." Second, that these systems of oppression serve, quote, "important purposes, both psychic and material, for the dominant group, namely white Americans." Third, that race and races are the product of social thoughts and relations. So all groupings are essentially arbitrary, but they're created by white people to harm other people. And finally, that minority status, quote, "brings with it a presumed competence to speak about race and racism." Meaning that if you're a person of color, you get to speak about race and racism and nobody else does. Okay, when you take that together, what that really means is that all inequality is inequity. It means any discrepancy can be chalked up to systemic racism without ever having to explain how the discrepancy occurred. You never have to actually point to a problematic policy in order to explain why the discrepancy exists. You just point to the discrepancy, and this in and of itself means that all the institutions are bad. Right? Everything good is fruit of the poisonous tree. All those institutions were built by rich white men who were seeking to enshrine their own racism in the way the institutions work. Right? Boiled down into less nuanced form, CRT sounds precisely like Ibram X. Kendi. Okay? And this is a way of reducing risk in how you think about yourself. It's a way of reducing your mental risk. Now, here is the thing. Our aversion to risk, obviously it applies across the board. It applies to finance. We outsource nearly all policy to the Federal Reserve at this point. We have a cadre of experts who are supposed to decide how much your dollar is worth and also keep down unemployment. We outsource all COVID policy to supposed experts who happen to screw it up 6 ways from Sunday while maybe funding gain-of-function research in Wuhan. All these experts fail. And that failure makes us angry because we have been lied to. We've been told we can hand over everything to the experts and they will push a magic button and they will fix everything. But they're lying to us. That's not the case. And when they fail, they have two alternatives. They can admit it or they can get us to turn on each other. And so when the experts who have promised us they will mitigate all risks, when that doesn't work, instead they blame you. They tell you to blame your neighbor. It's your neighbor who's standing in our way. And so my call today is when you get beyond the coddling, what you realize is that the coddling in the end is a shield for people in power to never have to be answerable. If they can promise you that they will mitigate all your risks, even if they fail, they will just blame the person sitting next to you. And if you go along with them, you will give them more power and more power and more power, but you won't lead a fulfilled life. We actually have to re-embrace risk on a personal level and on a societal level. We have to take the risk of freely exchanging ideas because that's where innovation happens. We have to take the risk of being able to invest and reap the benefits of that risk. We have to take the risks of, for example, in a personal relationship, getting married is a risk. It is foregoing a current benefit for a future gain. Right? You are foreclosing all sorts of other possibilities because you have chosen to make a life with this one person. That is a risk.